multiple stimulus checks. You're going to get them in January. But what's talked about in the CR for the next few days that has a December 11th deadline is one stimulus check. Ultimately, what I want you to understand is that if you see the stimulus check for December 11th and they actually agree upon it, and you're like, why the hell is it $1,200? I don't want you to think negative about it. Joe Biden said this is a down payment, and it is a down payment. But what's important to understand is that Joe Biden has repeatedly promised you multiple stimulus checks in January. And that is in addition to my SSI and SSDI viewers who get a stimulus check for just them also of $200 per month on top of the regular benefits. And then people who need a rent stimulus check, and then people who need a business stimulus check. There's a lot of other checks coming in January, but you need a check right now. And that's why I'm working around the clock to get you money right now. What's important to understand is that you can get escalated benefits for UI right now. You could potentially get a state stimulus check, and you can also potentially get state-free rent stimulus as well. A lot of breaking developments across the board. I'm working hard to get you money right now, and I thank you for joining me for the bottom of the hour, the 6:30 edition of Early Mornings LALATE. Hey, good morning, everybody. It's 6:30 a.m. and it's the bottom of the hour, the second edition of Early Mornings LALATE. If you missed the 6 a.m. edition, it's in the pinned comment to this video, and it's over into the pinned comment to the right. I'm so glad you joined me, and please subscribe because there's going to be breaking developments across the board this week. And what's important for you to understand is that I aim to not only get you money, but also keep you informed and educated about something that's often confusing. When you're talking about a CR, it's like, what's a CR? And you're talking about a bill. Well, it's not a bill, it's only a memo. Why is there only a memo? When is it going to be a bill? Who needs to approve it? Things are sort of complicated. My job is to make it very basic for you, because ultimately the most important thing is how much money are you getting and when? And please subscribe, because I'm working around the clock to get you money right now, not 5 days from now, not 5 weeks from now, and not 5 months from now. And if you missed Purple Power Live last night, boy, please go watch that, because I'm trying to get people money in ways that even expand beyond the city, state, and county that has money for you, or the state stimulus checks that are being announced now, or the state rent assistance free programs that are being announced now. I'm finding other things for you around the clock as well. So please subscribe. Also like this video. It helps with the algorithm rankings. On the side is a live chat, an instant premiere. So if you're tuning in at 6:30 a.m. when the show debuts, you could follow around along and chat with your friends. The bacon's bacon. The bacon's bacon. The coffee's coffin. The toast is toast, and the brewing is brewing, and I'm your here, and they're over there as well. So say hello to your familiar friends. Say hello to someone right now in the chat. Say, hey, what's your name? Nice to meet you. Where you from? Everyone should introduce themselves right now in the live chat. Say, hey, where you from? Ultimately, you may be surprised when I did the very, very, very first live chat on this channel on the beach in Redondo Beach in the thick of darkness, walking. I had 20 people in the room, and 18 of them were all from Dallas. How funny is that? The other few were also from Texas. I don't know what it was, but everyone just sort of was neighbors that suddenly jumped in the chat. They didn't know each other until that video. So say hello to someone. And with that, let's get to the breaking news. The breaking news as you start today is that the CR, the Congressional Budget Bill, needs to be done by December 11th. I don't think that they're going to give an extension or do an extension on the deadline. To do an extension, they have to vote on an extension, and I don't believe they're going to agree upon that either. Ultimately, the Congressional Budget Bill was not supposed to have stimulus in it. It has stimulus in it because of the fight and push of this channel. But Purple Power, your push is not done today. You have to be really on finger loosening skills. You need to be tweeting and tagging and sharing these videos with McConnell and his chief of staff and his communications director, and with the people that support you, like Biden, AOC, and Sanders, who over the weekend said there has to be a stimulus check in there, or they're not going to approve this. And there's Republicans who want a stimulus check and have come out in favor of them, like Rob Hawley, that said, you know what, has to be a stimulus check in there, has to be eviction moratorium, has to be mortgage forbearance. What are we doing? You look at the numbers and they're horrible. I mean, 20 million people facing eviction just a few days from now, 16 million people about to lose unemployment benefits, 5 or 10 million about to lose their home to foreclosure. These numbers don't lie. But what do lie are congressional leaders to say, we need to help Americans with a big $2 million stimulus grant to restaurant owners. Restaurant owners do not need another $2 million grant, which they got 3 times before. It's time for millions of Americans who need a stimulus check to get it. They got this done, which I think they're going to. It would go out December 11th approximately, and you would have it December 21st as a stimulus check. Ultimately, viewers are asking me the obvious questions. I don't know the answers. Will it be the same amount check for adult dependents and the same amount check for dependents? And will it be taken out for child support? Those type of obvious questions. We just don't know. The last negotiations by Steve Mnuchin with Nancy Pelosi, and yeah, he is involved in these negotiations, was a stimulus check about $2,000 with the same check for adult dependents and children getting a $1,000 check. So Steve wanted to give all adults the same check amount. Thank goodness. That makes things so simpler, and it's also fair. It shouldn't be that you're a dependent on someone else's tax return, you get a lesser check. Now, Joe Biden wants to make clear that whatever you're going to get with this, don't be fussing about the number, because he's going to take care of you in January. He has promised multiple stimulus checks. Stimulus checks as often as so needed to get through this pandemic. And he says he's going to keep on doing bills. Bills, bills, bills. Sound like a rap song? Bills, bills, bills. Now, does that sound familiar? It should. Senator Harris, now VP-elect Harris, said $2,000 a month for every month until the pandemic ends or until employment goes down at least 6 months. Well, unemployment ain't going down, that's for certain, and the pandemic ain't ending until at least June, that's for certain, so that's $12,000 right there. And then, who else? Well, Bernie Sanders came out on the weekend, and AOC said, stimulus check, you need a stimulus check. And their reasoning was what's important, not so much the number of value. Of course, Bernie Sanders is the guy who co-authored the stimulus bill with VP Harris. Sanders says that it's important to understand, and this is what he said that Republicans and Democrats seem to forget all the time. It's true that there's so many people who are not employed when the pandemic hit, or people who are employed but not making enough money to survive because the number of hours is too little or their job number of hours have been cut. And he says people need stimulus checks. Let me give you an example. This is what he's talking about. A single mom who's doing DoorDash on the side and is bringing home, $800 a month in income. That's just not going to cut it. Her number of hours have been cut. She's not getting as many calls as she would have gotten. So she needs a stimulus check. She won't qualify for any of these memo plans of the CR because she is employed. She's not unemployed. So she won't get any benefits from the way the memo's written. She needs a stimulus check. Let me give you another viewer, an SSDI viewer. They've seen the cost of eggs and milk go up. They've seen toilet paper going up higher again in pricing because of the pandemic and lockdowns. They need a stimulus check. It costs more money to live. It was Pete DeFazio, the Democrat out of the West Coast. I think it's Washington or Oregon. He said that, people who are seniors or on benefits are really hurting during this pandemic because everything's costing them more and no one's giving them more money. And there's nothing that they qualify for except a stimulus check. And so that's what's important for these legislators to understand. That's why you should also be sharing and tagging them with this video, for them to realize that those people who need relief often don't qualify for the relief you're talking about. And what's important to understand is that it's time to start realizing we need to stop bailing out big business. It used to be a Republican position to bail out big business. Now it's become a Democratic position, and I don't know when it's going to stop. Now, no one disputes that businesses need PPP, but the fact that there's been 3, 4, 5 rounds of PPP and there's been barely one round of stimulus checks shows you the inequality of what's going on here, and it has to stop. I understand Early Mornings LALATE is a lighthearted show, but what I want to make very clear to you is that we don't mince our words here. And what's important to understand is that if you own a restaurant and you got PPP once, and then twice, and then 3 times, and then 4 times, and now you're back saying, I really need some more money? Well, how about the people down the street that never got a stimulus check? Well, I provide employment for people. Well, a lot of the PPP businesses let people go and did not keep them on employment. The business owners kept the money for themselves. And that was the problem, is that business owners calling themselves employees of their own businesses got beautiful, nice checks for rich people. And that was not the purpose of this pandemic, to compensate rich people with stimulus who could afford the situation. There was a data that I ran a lot during the month of July on this channel, which said something along the lines of 48 people who made $48,000 or less before the pandemic, that the vast majority of them are unemployed now and cannot find new jobs, where people who made over $60,000 before the pandemic have been rehired and are back to much of the normality. What this is talking about is the K-shaped curve of this pandemic. And who talked about it again last week? Joe Biden. Ironically, as Joe Biden talks about it, some Democrats are supporting the K-shaped recovery. The K-shaped recovery means that people who were well off before the pandemic are getting very rich now. And the people who were struggling before the pandemic are going into poverty. And Joe Biden says that has to stop. Everyone needs to recover together. Then why is the Democratic position, which I don't think is very democratic, the moderate position memo presented by Manchin and Romney, which is basically supported by basically a lot of Republicans writing, have no eviction moratorium, no mortgage forbearance, and no stimulus check? It doesn't make sense. People need to be sure that they're not thrown out of their houses, and that's where we are today. And so the messaging is getting out loud and clear. And over the weekend, Republicans and Democrats on both sides said stimulus checks, eviction moratorium, and mortgage forbearance. But you need to get that message out loud and clear today. Now, the good thing to know is that state unemployment benefits are ramping up to help you. States have inherent authority to give you extra weeks of unemployment benefits. And I'm predicting this week you're going to see a lot of new states say, you know what? They're not getting it done in Congress. We're going to give you additional weeks of benefits. I fully believe that states are waiting to see if Congress is going to take care of it. Because if Congress takes care of it, Congress carries the financial burden of it. But if Congress doesn't do it, I fully expect more states like Hawaii are going to come forward and say, you know what? January 1, we don't want you to be unemployed with no benefits. We're going to start giving you additional weeks of benefits. And those additional weeks of benefits are UI and PUA or PUA-ish things. They can't give you FPUC. That's a federal instrument. So what I need you to do is I need you to go to your state's unemployment website today and make sure you've signed up for all types of alerts, whether it's email alerts or text alerts. So you can alert from any of your state when anything changes. I don't mean mail, U.S. mail. I mean things quicker, because what's going to happen is they're going to start making announcements, and then when they do, you need to go into your website and make sure you certify for your weekly benefits. If you're off of benefits because you ran out of benefits, they would have to reactivate your account, which is what they'll do. Or if you still have more weeks of benefits coming up and they're about to run out, then make sure you can keep on certifying. What's important to understand is that when we're looking at FPUC, do I think it's going to get into the CR? I don't think so. There's a proposal of $300 a week. I just don't see it happening because it's not retroactive and it's not going to, be done back to, a time in which anything makes sense. So what's important to understand is that if they don't do FPUC correctly, then why do it at all? They're talking about 4 weeks of FPUC, which is $1,200. Just send out a stimulus check. Just send out a very nice stimulus check. And as Larry Kudlow said on Friday, hey, there's $600 billion of CARES Act 1 money of SBA unused. Just send that out. as a stimulus check. No, it's actually 2 stimulus checks. He didn't say the end of the sentence. I added it for him. But it's very easy economic, very easy math. So the other thing to consider is your state benefits. States are rolling out free money across the board, whether it's a stimulus check or rent or food or these or utilities. And what's important to understand is that if that money was not there yesterday, it may be there today. If it's not there today, it may be there tomorrow. Viewers are starting to understand my messaging to them, which is don't look once and say it's not there and stop, because it may be there the day after. I've had a lot of viewers do that, and they're like, I looked in Georgia, there's nothing there. Did you not know they're going out with the column with some rent? What? It wasn't there the day before. And then I'm like, oh, it's coming out. Then they say, I can't find it. Well, I just told you it's coming out. So when I tell you it's coming out, it means you set yourself for an alert, a mental alert, put a little post-it note on the refrigerator, say, check where that is in the next day or two, because it's going to come out. It hasn't come out, it's coming out. And there you get on point. Don't look and stop because you can't find it. When I tell you it's been announced, it means it's coming to a theater near you. If you have questions or comments in today's video, drop them in the comments below. But please join me on Mornings LALATE with the big broadcast at 8:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. As always, stay informed, stay smiling, and stay LALATE for more.